moderator today on this panel is Marko from HMS Motorsports. He's the founder and president. He started HMS Motorsport to keep racers safe. Developed the Schrott harness alongside NASCAR, IndyCar, and IMSA to keep drivers safe in high-speed impacts. In his spare time, Joseph is the national safety steward for BMW Club Racing. I left the H off. Did I do it? For this panel, I'd like to welcome Kelly Franko. Oh, did it move again? I'm sorry. I think we need safety equipment on the chairs. I'd like to welcome Kelly Franko to the stage from Serphina Safety Apparel. She is the president, and after owning a bra boutique for 10 years, she sold it to help her son find a sponsor in his pursuit of drag racing. Started Serphina Safety Apparel serving the needs of women in motorsports and the female industrial athletes working in electrical, utility, and paper. Welcome, Kelly. We like those drag racing pursuits. Like to see it. Jim Leo from PitFit. He is the founder and president. He got his start in 1993 after getting approval from Roger Penske to improve fitness of his kart IndyCar team. His conditioning program helped Penske team dominate with 12 wins in 16 races, plus an Indy 500. He created PitFit in 1997 and began working with other teams in the kart series. Welcome, Jim. Nicole-McElroy from RECARO is the global vice president of product development and brand, responsible for managing all product development and brand activities through the engagement of global sales, marketing, program management, and product engineering teams by developing and executing new products, businesses, and brand strategies. Gail Truess is a global medical response driver. Also saw you for breakfast this morning, Gail. Professional driver instruction was PPG kart pace car team member, has been with the AMR safety team since 2008, working with the NTT IndyCar series, Road to Indy, the Global MX-5 races, and more. In professional motorsports for over 30 years, as a racer, holds the National Rally Championship and international wins. Top-ranked women driver in the SCCA's Michelin Pro Rally Series. Welcome, Gail. Thank you. Quinn is the Director of Performance for Toyota Racing Development, a certified strength and conditioning specialist through the NSCA and U.S. Weightlifting Level 1 Club Coach. In addition to her strength and conditioning responsibilities, a graduate of Springfield College with a BS in Applied Exercise Science. Completed strength and conditioning internships at Velocity Sports Performance and the University of Kansas, working with the men and women's basketball and volleyball teams. All yours.
Great. Well, it's terrific to be here today. I think there's a lot to, you can talk about safety, but there are really two aspects we want to cover today. Briefly, we'll talk about kind of the developments in safety products specifically for women, which unfortunately is not a highlight. There has been very little development in seats, in specific head and neck restraints, and even in attire. And fortunately, some of the people on this panel have gone a long way to help along those roads to make that improvement. And then to show what the opportunities are, particularly in the safety aspects, which can be anywhere from manufacturing, delivering safety products, to working with as engineers and companies, developing those products and developing technologies for training all of our athletes, whether it's women athletes or men athletes. So I think there's a great diverse group here that can offer a lot of insight into what's going on. I spent 20 years in the hospitality business before I started HMS when I was 43. So, and I've been doing HMS for 27 years, so you can do the math. But the one thing that I'm very proud of is that in all cases, we've looked at customer service, we've looked at our staff. We have an average term in our company of about 9 or 10 years as an employment thing. We don't lose people very often, and I think the important thing is to respect the people you're working with, hire the best talent that you can, give them the best education, and give them the most support. And I think whether you're a man or a woman, one of the things that's lacking today is understanding that everybody has personal issues, personal problems here and there, and you need to support those people through those issues, and they'll become stronger employees and stronger people to work with. Also, I'm getting close to retirement age, which I'll never do. I'll be there until the last person dies, but I've worked to transfer my company to the employees, so I'm working in the next year and a half to transfer the ownership to the employees. And so I think building a company and having that, go on rather than just getting sold to some venture capital company and then disappearing is a very important thing. So that's that part. But so what I'd like to do is kind of move down the panel here, and I think, Kelly, first I'm going to ask you. I know you came out of the medical equipment area and doing sales and things like that, but now you have come into developing some attire for women specifically and base layers and stuff, which is something that hasn't existed before. So how did you go from point A to point B?
Well, it was actually kind of a serendipitous journey. I was in medical sales for a number of years, and during that part of it was asked to take on the responsibility to create a post-mastectomy boutique within that organization, which got me exposed to the world of undergarments and things for medical patients. And then from there, discovered the need that just in the general population, that as women, we are not given really any breast health education as girls, and we do not get any education on how to wear a bra or how to fit a bra. So that led me to opening just more fashion boutiques for bras and undergarments so that I could help create that education. And then through that, I had the opportunity to fit an NHRA driver via Skype, of all things, in a regular sports bra. And so we ended up meeting at PRI when I took my son to that show to learn how to get sponsors for him. But a conversation in a Lincoln Electric booth led to, can you make flame-resistant bras? And my husband immediately said, oh, yes, she can. And I'm like, all right. So that's what we did. It was just a journey then to discover fabrics and components. And from a design side, I knew what worked best for women of all sizes. And so that's what I really set out to do, is to create a true solution for fit and comfort in addition to protection, so that it was something women would wear and be protected by, and not just a product on the market.
And I know she's got the very first bra and sports bra and also a fitted bra approved by SFI. They had to do a little bit of development work to make sure that, like, the clasps and the things that hold it in proper position worked within the specification. And so it's it's really just something that's happened in the last year. And we've had in our stores, we've had women that come in that are quite surprised that we actually have a product, something for them. So that's she's done a great job with that, and I'm hoping that we have huge success for her business, especially as motorsport grows. Jim, I know you've been around PitFit for 30 years, so you've got a few more years on me in one company. I know what it's like to do 27, 30. Okay, I have a goal now. How would you say that the programs have changed over the years, specifically from the standpoint that I assume now you have more women involved, not only in your company, performing duties, but also in the training as we get more women that are getting into driving, as well as, we even have women coming into pit, working on pit lane and stuff like that. How has the evolution come across?
Well, I would say, first off, I've never felt so inferior in a large room as a male in here. This is an amazing group of women, so this is very impressive. As far as the industry and how it's moved, this is something, when I started doing this 25, 30 years ago, there wasn't many of me, let alone male, female, animal, vegetable, mineral. And so it was back then, the strength and conditioning world, it was very hard to find a woman, I would say, at all. It's better now. And I think that's last survey that in the world of sports and strength and conditioning, 87% are male, which is better than it was when I first got started. And as you see, as this grows, what I do and my company does and others, you're seeing more and more trainers, coaches that are getting more involved. So it only stands to reason that you're going to have, as the numbers grow, hopefully some of them are going to be female. And Caitlin, I've never met, but I know all about, is I think a testament to that. Heading a program up like that with Toyota is amazing. As far as from the driver standpoint, I think the first female driver that we had in the program might have been Sarah Fisher. There just wasn't that many around. And so as we started seeing more and more females getting involved in motor racing, they became much more high profile, and what was considered their lack of in certain categories was what people focused on. They didn't have the testosterone, or they didn't have the strength, or they didn't have whatever it took. And people like David Ferguson has disproved that, and common sense has disproved most of it as well. So we're seeing that a lot more women are getting involved. Danica Patrick, obviously, kind of, she got a lot of press, but before her you had Lynn and Janet Guthrie and such, and a number of other women. It seems to be nowadays there's more and more younger drivers starting at a lower level that are working their way up. And I can see several of them in here that are in our program or have been. And I think what you're seeing now is you're always going to have a surge when something is, I guess you could coin it, trendy or popular. But what we're seeing now is that phase is kind of dissipated. Now you're starting to see the talent, the real good drivers coming in. I mean, Tony was in our program, and now she's with Caitlin. She's fantastic, and Sabra, and there's talented women drivers out there, let alone drivers. They're just talented drivers. So I think you're seeing more and more of that, the focus on they want to be as good as possible, and improving their physical fitness and their strength, and those attributes are certainly areas that people can change.
Great, thanks. Nicole is with RECARO, and she's carved out a pretty good name. I've had dealings with her over the last several years on different projects. And she has a great reputation in the Motorsports division of RECARO, which is a small group compared to the OEM whole operation. RECARO, if you don't know, is a German company. I work with a lot of German companies as the importer for Schroth and Schubert. I know the challenges of working with that. They're kind of conservative, and they tend to be a little challenging. So, Nicole, you've done a terrific job in bringing up the motorsport end of RECARO. What kind of challenges have you faced in dealing not only internally, but I understand you have a fairly good-sized female staff.
I do.
That are successful, and I know the success, so they've done a great job.
They have. So I have a background of working with German companies. I started out at General Motors as a chassis engineer and worked my way up through different variants, worked from design and all the different variants, production, understanding production, worked with Opel, learned to how to collaborate, as you could say, with the German culture and understand the needs and how to speak the right language. And then I also worked on globalization at General Motors, which was key because it was not just in regards to engineering, but manufacturing and design, and how do you do it all together in different time zones, and respect. And respect is the key to anything, and trust. You have to be able to show that you listen, that you make sure and pay attention to the details, that you also gain their trust because you come back with what they ask for and deliver and over-deliver. And if you continue to do that for not only your team, but the people around you and those that trust you, that trust is the key factor in everything. When I say trust, I mean trust that on a race weekend that you don't have to think about if you accidentally have that aha moment that you didn't want to have, and that you're sitting there pretty and nothing happened to you because you were surrounded by the right protection, or you were harnessed incorrectly, into that vehicle and you were able to walk away, that's a success. But I don't ever want you to have to really trial my product. I hope that the product is making sure that you have the right ergonomics, that you're set up correctly in the vehicle. We're developing technologies around the different composites and how we do composites, how we get into natural fiber, how do we get into recyclability to have the sustainability in the product, but also maintaining the strength and characteristics you expect. Teaching teams on how to do something correct in a vehicle is important too. Don't think stanchions are, it's supposed to be nice and rough in that vehicle. And what has been interesting is to think of things outside the box. So, for example, in the culture, when it comes to international, I have an office in Japan and Germany, and then we have North America. And we have to think of things outside the box because all things in all sports actually collide. And they collide across different channels. For example, we decided and looked into off-road racing. We have our off-road racing stuff. Well, lo and behold, what we're using in commercial vehicles for buses and what you see out there, we are able to use those materials into racing because they're high strength, they're durable, and they allow you to do the things that you need to do for that series. We've created foam technology that allows your spine not to have the vibrations come through the seat. So when it comes through the seat, for example, when I talk about in-vehicle stanchions, so stanchions should actually collapse. They should not be stiff and stay in their structure. If you get in a bad accident, your energy needs to go through there and make that bend. Because if that bent, it means less energy is going into your seat, which means it's less the energy going into your body, into your spine. Next thing is your cushion. So if you're in off-road racing, you're doing vertical hits like this. What happens is if you're not at the right angle in your seat, and you have that really rigid bracket, it's going to go right into your spine because there's no cushion or anything in between the cushion and your body to take that. We created a technology and a foam technology that allows that absorption to take and dissipate before it goes into your spine. That's important. But what was interesting part is we didn't realize that was happening in rally driving as they start getting into bigger jumps. So we started to look at it, and the team of ladies on the team were like, hey, we were talking about this, and we were looking at the video, and we saw this happen to his body, and they were paying attention to the body and the form, where the other guys on our team were looking at the seat. And there's a difference, right? You have to look at the whole package and understand what's going on. So I think as we deliver and continue to keep our promise on what we set as expectations for our customers, because they're truly what we pay attention to, it's important. And my last statement is, on every race weekend, anyone that is a partner of mine or the teams, and I say me because I'm very vested in what we do, because I pay attention to every news feed that's going on. I pay attention to every Instagram, you name it, of every driver that we have something with, that we personally know has it. And if something happens to them, I am literally, if I'm at the race, I'm in their pit, I'm talking to their engineering chief and seeing what happened. If it's on Instagram or they're somewhere else where I'm not, I am calling them and finding out that they're okay, and I want to get their data back so that we can make it better.
I definitely feel that, since we have about 97% of the Cup Series and about 95% of the IndyCar Series, every time there's a crash, I'm like crossing my fingers, making sure everything is okay. I mean, we've spent a lot of time in the last 15, 17 years with NASCAR and all the sled testing and trying to develop new standards for harness belts and relationship with seats and stuff and all that. The relationship between everything, the helmet, the seat, the harness, all of that is really one kind of safety unit. Everything has to work correctly at the same time. So Nicole's point about educating the people, not only, when you provide the seats, you provide harnesses, but it's a package and it all has to work together. And that's probably the most important thing that people miss. And I think in stores and stuff, if you're going to buy equipment, don't buy it mail order. Go to a store that is reputable, that can spend the time with you to discuss, to fit you into things. There are head and neck restraints that fit women better than other head and neck restraints. There are seats, and I'm hoping Nicole is coming up with a seat that I got I had 3 women ask me about seats for women, because you might be, for shorter women in particular, because a lot of the seats that are out there just don't have the shoulder openings low enough, and that could prevent a real safety issue. So hopefully Nicole's working on that. I've heard rumors that she might be. So, Gail, you've been a professional rally racer. You've been very successful at that. And somehow you've managed to parlay that into a full-time career in staying in the car and as a driver coach and now with AMR, getting the doctors where they need to be in critical times. One of the things that you mentioned to me earlier is that you've seen a tremendous change in the last few years on women that are now in the paddocks and the things in there. What have you seen? How has that developed?
Wow, first of all, where was your seat when I was rallying? I used to be 6 feet tall. Man, I wish we had that around. In the paddock, what I have noticed in the last couple years, granted, I'm part of the safety team. AMR is American Medical Response. GMR is their parent company, which is also a sponsor today for this event. So proud to be representing them. As part of the safety team, I operate a little bit differently than my teammates. They're all medics, EMTs, firefighters, so that is the safety team. We're the people that go out when cars crash on the track, we take care of business. I also work with the medical team. I am the drivers for the physicians, so I have 2 ER doctors on board with me. What I've seen happening in the paddock, mostly in the last 2 years, and part of it, credit to Beth and her team, is I started walking around and noticing there's more women. And it's not just women in the driver's seat, but it's team owners, it's the engineers, it's people in hospitality, it's PR, it's all of these different opportunities that are in the paddock right now. And ladies, it is ripe. If you want a job in motorsports, IndyCar is being very open and very welcoming right now. Come talk to me later, contact me after this event. We have internships through the teams. I know Jimmy Johnson mentioned that yesterday, that there was a lot of women on his team when he was out running. We had a lot of people during the month of May. They come out for 1 month, whether they're working for the road course early in the month or they're working for the Indy 500. On the medical side, they have some fascinating things happening over the last couple years. Our medical team they bring residents in for the month of May for an elective, and they learn about big sports medicine, in our case, motorsports. But they rotate through all of these different events that would involve potential medicine, whether they work at the infield hospital with the public, they work with the drivers, they'll come out, they'll ride with me on the track, they might get a shot at running on one of the safety trucks, they work in pit lane, and if anybody's heard of the snake pit, they work over there. Heaven help them on that one. So there's lots of opportunities there. And in the last 3 years now, we've also created a fellowship that is a motorsports program that if you want to become a doctor within motorsports, this is mostly emergency medicine. So 2 years ago, Dr. Julia Weiser was our first medical professional to go through. This year, she has now taken over as the first female medical director for a major sports series, so we're very proud of her. We had a second one that is going through now, Dr. Melissa McCarthy. And she, if anybody knows who Dr. Trammell is, she has got an aptitude for working with human physiology, computers, as well as her ER medicine. So she's got a great future in what she's doing. But all of us have taken this information that we've gathered and our careers and the different paths that we've taken on, and these other doors open up for you. Like Melissa didn't know about Dr. Trammell and what he was doing, but she had a specialty that when he told her what he needed, she could do it. So my advice is when those doors open, go run through them if it's something that interests you, because that's what's happened my whole life. I wasn't the person that laid out that plan. It just happened for me. And being a rally driver, you know, we look up there and I'm like, I'm not sure if that road goes right or left, but hope it works out when I get there. Fortunately, it has.
Yeah, one thing I noticed is that in talking with people, and it was mentioned in the last session, is passion. You know, if you want to do something, you know, you need to be passionate about it. You need to be as educated about it as possible, but you need to demonstrate that passion when you're talking to a potential employer or a potential, you know, job. You know, the more passionate you are about it, the more committed that you show to it, the more that you show that you've researched it and done it. That's what makes the difference between you as a candidate and anybody else as a candidate, male or female. So I think that's a really important thing. Caitlin, you're the director of performance at TRD, and
At TPC,
the
the Performance Center.
But at the Performance Center. But
All of
I
TRD.
understand that you have, But you have a mostly female organization that you put together, and
We do.
you've had a tremendous amount of success. If anybody looks at the TRD racers, they're all doing quite well. Toyota is doing excellent across all the series. And so it must be something that you're doing right and something that your team is doing right. So how did you put this team together, and how was it all women by purpose, or was it just that were the best candidates that you found to put it together? And how is that relationship with the different drivers, both men and women?
I think in the beginning when Jack Irving put this program together, and he wanted to kind of fine-tune the driver as much as we fine-tune the cars and trucks, he did have in his head that he wanted a female coach to kind of start in the beginning. And I think what's interesting in athletics is men and women coach women, and that's always been the way it's gone. And now men are starting to realize the value of having men and women on their staffs as well. So that's starting to permeate through there, because we just bring different perspective, and you need both. And our staff does feel, it's funny, we have a couple guys from TRD that will come by, and they're like, there's a lot of women here that I'm not used to this, especially if they're on like the engineering set. Unfortunately, there's not as many, and they're like, I have to watch what I say, and I'm like, pro tip, maybe we just do that all the time. I don't know, like just, put the back of your head. But yeah, I think it really just started with needing good humans around. And part of being of this set, which I'm really proud to be a part of, the group that, number one priority is the health and safety, mental and physical well-being of the driver. It's something a little different and really special. Yes, we're all very competitive, but kind of thinking them as people first, it's just a different thing sometimes. It's a luxury, I would say, that not everybody has when you're thinking about the dollars and cents. So, we have Stephanie Fernandez, who's actually here, who's our dietitian, and lately we've been sharing a brain, which is really strange. But, in our PT that we work with through North Carolina, Tammy, obviously also a woman, and we have Bill helps us on the medical side. So we do have men in the organization, but I think it's really more about good people, and it's been nice for the drivers who go to the shop and are surrounded by men all day, and it needs to be more diverse, but right now it's not, to kind of come and get a little bit of a reality check. We have so many kids who are away from home, away from their parents. They're living here on their own for the most part. So, when people ask me what I do for a living, I explain, and then they look at me like I'm crazy, and then I go, I run a small high school. Essentially, that's what I do. But it's the person part that is the favorite part of my job. Helping them develop as people, your 20s, we have some that are 14. It's such a pivotal time as far as changing as a human. And so that's what we look for first in people that work with us. And then, if you're an absolutely unbelievable dietitian, that's just icing on the cake kind of deal. So.
Toyota's had a lot more women drivers coming into their program than pretty much any of the other manufacturers. Do you have any kind of a different approach to it for training men versus women?
Approach to training men versus women. The women focus better during the day in the weight room. No, I'd say, honestly, the approach is pretty individualized no matter who it is. And it has a ton to do. The best program is the one that you're going to do. So it has a ton to do with what is your aptitude, what is your ability to kind of take on as far as what you can accomplish throughout a week. And we work a ton on building habits and then kind of harnessing those habits into adhering to a program. And so, yes, the approach might look a little bit different. The mentoring is certainly different. But I'd say truly what we're worried about, women in essence have a little bit less upper body strength. So we work on maybe they might feel some weaknesses, and also the training age is different. If you grew up training, or you didn't, that's going to make your program look a little bit different. But truly large differences, yes, this is the female program, this is the male program. It's not there.
Now, are the female and males working out at the same time? I assume at different sessions, and
Yes.
is there any interaction? Because I think for a lot of guys, that's probably not something that they're used to.
I don't know. Isabella, help me. Do you think it's weird? No, it's not weird. Tony, is it weird?
Well, that's good. That's good.
No,
to hear.
yeah. They definitely are working out at the same time. I don't know. I think almost we like overthink that part. At Florida State, we had men and women in the weight room all the time too, and it's just the guys check themselves out way more than the women do during the course of a lift. It's true. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, I think we're going to open it up to questions.
I'm so sorry.
Good segue.
I don't know if my mic is on. As we get that set, and Gail, I want to come to you quickly on something, just as we think about more and more females finding their ways into higher roles in professional motorsports. Is there a difference to the medical response? Let's say there's an on-track incident. Do teams have to approach a female driver differently than a male driver?
I don't think so. They approach them as a driver, of course.
I know different like body way that they're in the car.
Not to my knowledge. My teammates that if they did an extrication are conscious that they're dealing with a woman versus a man. You know, they have to use the backboard to extricate them and get them to an ambulance. But to my knowledge, no. But we were speaking earlier, some of the physiology of differences between men and women. All of the IndyCar drivers wear accelerometers in both ears, of which we quickly take out of their ears. They download this information, and you learn about the G-force impact that the driver has taken. And they have learned through some of the impacts, not Lynn, by the way, that some of the women can take a higher impact and not be injured as some of the men have been in the past. So actually dealing with them in the past, sometimes personalities make a big difference, and that's men and women when we pick them up.
Saw a hand over. Yep.
Thank you. Hi, Jessie Hettinger. So I'm an automotive engineer, but I'm also a race mom. And so is there anything, and maybe this is more towards Nicole, in the automotive industry, we have federal motor vehicle safety standards that we have to meet. Is there any governing body that is really looking at the equipment that the drivers are using? And then kind of the second part, in automotive, we design for a 5th percentile female, about her size, and a 95th percentile male. We really struggle with race seats to get her to fit properly. And so is there anything, any work towards that?
In the Japan market. No, seriously. So FIA does all of our standards. We have new standards that just came out for where the halo placement is, and then also the forces to which everything has to take. So we're doing some updates to shells. Everyone is. And obviously everyone's also lobbying on what that is going to be and how it impacts them on their individual teams. Everyone has a stake in the game, OEM and teams do. So there's a big group that gathers on a regular basis and has inputs into what that is. From a sizing perspective, you know, it's a lot of investment to do race shells. It's not cheap. It's homologation, everything else. You're looking at 100 plus, you know, per shell, and then and that's just the shell design. That's not including the molds and everything else that go with it. And then you have to think about how you're going to do that from shipment and so on. I could go all day into details, but what I was going to say is that the bigger thing is being able for us to bring those shells from the other markets and other regions into our region. They are homologated too. So like the biggest thing I'm working on right now is getting my Japan shells over here because they do fit her. And then it's also about separating out the pad kits. So traditionally when we sell pad kits, you sell, here's a medium, here's a large, here's a small, just like a swimsuit or something. And it doesn't work that way. There's curvier people nowadays, and therefore they might take the medium in the thorax area here. They might take a small down here and a large up here because they need to hold their shoulders in. And so we're starting to work on how we separate things out so that is conducive for who the driver is.
Also, in a lot of different kind of racing, I'm not sure what kind of racing your daughter's doing, but there are, you know, aluminum seats. There are SFI standards for seats as well that we see a lot in dirt track and oval track racing. That's different than an FIA standard. There are seats from manufacturers that make, you know, kids seats, kid size seats, and then there are also seat pour kits. So basically, if you have a seat that's a little bit too big, there are kits that are made with an SFI or FIA foam that can be poured as an insert so that you can put the kid or whoever into a form that will fit them and will give them, protection with the proper level of foam. So there are things that can be done, but you have to, again, talk to a professional that's in that area. If you're in a quarter midget, it's a whole different thing than if you're in a sedan or a sports car. And typically the manufacturers that are supporting that one group are not the same manufacturers that are supporting, the other group.
Yes, ma'am.
Just to answer that one little piece back to Katie's mom, is that each sanctioning body has a different set of safety rules. And so, I'm always a believer that get the rule book, and because everyone's different, and so you really need to know what those rules are. My question, though, is, which really drives me crazy. I remember I was at a quarter midget race with Terry Trammell a number of years ago, and since we have so many young females racing, particularly really young and on all the way up, have a long hair, and I just never see a consistent. I don't even know who's responsible for providing knowledge and guidance. And I'm hoping that maybe, even though you're all in the business of selling something, but to just like Terry was explaining to me about how the hair is like the most absorbent thing, and that's what picks up oil, and it's the most flammable thing because it picks up oil and gasoline. But so many of these gals, it's hanging out of the back of their suit and all that, and there's nobody watching that. And so I just would hope that the industry would somehow start to be more responsible in providing safety information, common sense for parents, and then for these young people, and particularly young females, because they usually have, some of the guys do too. Ari had longer hair than I did, but, because they don't wear balaclavas sometimes and all that kind of stuff, so.
Yeah, Lynn, I think that, as HMS, one of the things that we've done is we've come in and sponsored a lot of different types of sanctioned racing. But one of the things, if we're going to come in and sponsor that group, the first thing we do is we say we want to look at your safety regulations, and we want to help to work with you to create standards that will provide the safety that's necessary. So in that case, if they have long hair, they should be wearing a balaclava, a head sock, which then covers their hair and then protects it against those kind of things. But we really, every sanctioning, or you look at the rule book, and companies that are coming in and working, and I'm sure Nicole will provide advice to sanctioning organizations she's working with and ones that we're working with. We will try to, if you're a responsible supplier, you should be the person who's trying to help that sanctioning organization provide it. I know I've worked with Porsche Club and BMW Club and Formula Drift and SCDA and our SVRA, and in all of those organizations, before we've come in, we said we're only interested to come in and sponsor you and support you if you will let us help you improve your general competition rules for all the safety things. So yeah, it's right on board. It's really critical that as suppliers and as people that are in the safety end of it, that we are the ones that help the sanctioning organizations update and change their standards.
That was wonderful. Yeah, and Joe, I just want to call you out real quick. I was standing here, and I see all your notes there. Like I see all the handwritten stuff. So a round of applause to you, and a round of applause to all of our moderators.